Gingerbread man Grigory Maritovich Babrukin, and among his friends simply Grin, was a man of average height. His slender, thin frame and broad shoulders proved a strong build. Long strong hands ended in thin, pale, long fingers, like those of pianists, on one of which a wedding ring sparkled. His gait was careless and lazy, and was always accompanied by the waving of his arms, which tells of the secret nature of his character. When he sat down, his straight frame always bent, as if he did not have a single bone in his back. The position of his whole body showed some kind of nervous weakness. There was something childlike in his smile. His skin had a kind of feminine tenderness. Blonde hair, curly by nature, so picturesquely outlined his pale, noble forehead, on which, only under long observation, traces of a series of wrinkles could be noticed, walking in uneven rows, like a washboard, crossing one another, and probably indicated much more clearly in moments of anger or mental unrest. Despite the light color of his hair, his mustache and eyebrows were black, a sign of breed in a man, just like a black mane and a black tail in a white horse. He was married, and this fact he considered the most important and best in his life. Gregory was sure that God sent him a soulmate, and he appreciated it and greatly valued every day of the family idyll. Wife, she is a cherry, a flower, a sweetheart. She was a curvy bright blonde, with a slender bust, with regular face shapes, big brown eyes, a small nose and a bow of scarlet lips, to which in dreams the males of Homo sapiens who met her on your way. Our hero knew and guessed about it. But he never rolled up scenes of jealousy. He believed in fidelity to his betrothed, who constantly attracted the eyes of males, regardless of the location of the spouses. They had 2 children whom they raised in love, and it never occurred to him that something could interfere with their family happiness. In the evenings, a loving husband and caring father, in the person of Gregory, loved to read fairy tales to children, which immersed him in a series of childhood memories, after which he often dropped a harsh salty male tear on his black mustache, which in coils hanging down and often because of moments of excitement rolled up thanks to emotions from a beautiful and carefree childhood, or the untidiness of a given individual were stuck together thanks to lumps of green snot, treacherously and imperceptibly for him, flowing from the nose during a deplorable state. Fabulous memories concerned his grandmother, whom he loved very much. Grandmother loved him mutually. Even this feeling could be called more than love. For grandmother he was the meaning of life. Olympiada Martinovna, she is Greeny's grandmother. She gave all her tenderness, warmth and kindness of her soul without a trace to her pet. Grigory remembered her warm, rough, calloused hands for the rest of his life, but despite this nuance, they seemed to him the sweetest and most tender. He especially remembered those wonderful fairy tales that she read to him before going to bed, and it was they who gave him wonderful childhood dreams, transferring him to the fabulous countries in which he wandered. He remembered one such dream for the rest of his life. That dream where he visited the country of gingerbread men. In the morning, he told his grandmother about his nightly fantasies, to which she smiled. "When I die, I will be in this country with these magnificent little men," she whispered with a smile. This was that segment of Gregory's radiant childhood, which is remembered by any child for his entire conscious life. That wonderful feeling of a carefree childhood, surrounded by care, affection and, most importantly, understanding that you are needed and you are needed. When you are in the web of problems of adult life and cannot get out of it, like a fly caught in a trap woven by a spider, problems of everyday life, it is then that such memories relax and help not to give up, but to find the strength to move on. Later, my grandmother became ill, but the words about the country of gingerbread men remained in the memory of our hero for a long time. And standing at her deathbed, Olympiada Martinovna, smiling, said to the sobbing little Grina, "Do not cry, granddaughters." A spider, as she often called him, "You can come in your dreams to me in the country of gingerbread men. I will always wait for you there." And then she died, quickly and suddenly. After that, at the funeral, Gregory sobbed. This event dealt an unexpected and painful blow to the mind of the child. The children's mind was visited by a distorted reality. He could not come to terms with the loss of a person so dear to him, and at that moment a clouding came in the mind of the child. Grandmother's last words about the country of fairy tale men were spinning in my head. The surrounding world has acquired bright acid tones. Cheerful music played all around to the beat of bright flashes of neon lightning. At that moment, Grina thought that gingerbread men had come to her grandmother's funeral. They, like in A.S. Pushkin's fairy tale The Tale of Tsar Saldan, were like those 33 heroes. Their figures resembled people. On the gingerbread body there was a pronounced head, arms, legs. The face was decorated with eyes, a nose and a beautiful smile that carried love and kindness. Their golden brown bodies decorated with glaze of different colors. As they passed, confectionery sprinkles covered the ground like snowflakes, falling from the sky, which majestically broke off their gingerbread bodies and fell down, spinning and spinning in a slow dance. After themselves in the air, they left the smell of beautiful pleasant vanilla. They picked up the coffin in which their beloved granny lay in a cheerful noisy crowd and carried it with ease. The funeral and confectionery procession left behind chocolate traces of melted bitter chocolate, which their great creator once lovingly applied to their feet. Having reached the place of the village churchyard where the deceased would be buried, they grabbed colored candy shovels and began to dig a grave together. Having dug out a decent hole and lowered the coffin into it, which was decorated with marmalade, flowers, they began to cheerfully read prayers. "Oh, great Father, confectioner, who created this wonderful biscuit world, we ask you, we are the youths of the gingerbread kingdom, take this human body into the bosom of manna cake." Next, the gingerbread team, with the help of candy shovels, buried the grave, built a rectangular mound on it, installed a black chocolate bar on the grave mound, a tombstone on which the calligraphic icing was written Grinetka, kiss you on all cheeks, see you soon, I'm waiting for you, your grandmother. When the ceremony came to an end, one of the most nimble little men approached Grigory. He was different from everyone. There was no smile on his face, like others. Instead of a smile, his lips displayed a displeased semicircle. Part of the arm up to the elbow, in this flat subject, was missing. Also the traces of someone's teeth with jagged ribbed edges stood out on the right side of the appetizing head. His drawings on the gingerbread body differed from the glaze painting of other members of the confectionery team. The painting of the uniform carried some kind of warlike meaning, like the patterns of the North American Indians, who applied war paint at the beginning of a military campaign. His impudent non-verbal gestures frightened Grigory. He gestured forcefully and sharply, coming close. His heavy gingerbread hand patted Grinya on the shoulder and he said in a surprisingly squeaky voice, "Don't be sad, man, come visit us, we are waiting, see you soon," he said, laughing, showing all the rows of sandy sharp teeth. All his funny team picked up his call and began to invite Grinya to him, showing gestures with his hands that were not bent at the elbows. "Please come here." At the same time, they began to shout in squeaky voices in a chant, "Don't be sad, man, come visit us, we are waiting, see you soon. Here is your old woman buried with candy dogs," continued the impudent little man. "She lived for a long time. She had to be taken to our country for a long time." At this awkward moment, the gingerbread grin scared the spider granddaughter. "And we will take you to our place, pour over apple jam and eat it, ha ha ha." "How you eat us," he continued with a wry smile. The old hag resisted for a long time, but we outwitted her. At that moment, Grinyo realized that it was grandmother's death itself, standing in front of him, death in the guise of an innocent creature, causing joy and appetite. And at that moment, the naive children's perception turned over, realizing that the illusory country of gingerbread men is not so kind to people. Hatred for the entire gingerbread race and a desire for revenge awakened in him. And from that moment on, Gregory never again ate anything that looked like gingerbread. The grandson swore on the grave of his grandmother to take revenge. He was looking forward to a long-awaited visit to a fairy tale land in order to fulfill his promise to punish the entire gingerbread civilization, especially that impudent little man. But in the future, life lived after this incident. Grinya never visited the country where the gingerbread population lived. He had dreams, but dreams about the fabulous land of gingerbread men did not visit him. Over time, the mental pain subsided and the memories of the tragedy did not stab his memory much, but the hour of the fatal meeting has come. Throughout his youth and maturity, Grin was a happy man, until the fateful hour, when, having come home from work earlier, he found his wife in his house, the love of his life, in the arms of his lover. At the first realization of what he saw, a bag of groceries slipped out of his hands. He stood silently for a long time and looked, as if the sculptor was studying the image of a person from whom he would sculpt his work. Not expecting a sudden visit, a couple in love, secret lovers, also looked at him in each other's strong arms, motionless. In order to somehow dilute the situation and hear some excuses for himself, Grigory Maratovich timidly began a dialogue. "What are you?" he stammered slowly and hesitantly. "We are nothing. Automatically came the answer of the lover, who did not disengage the lock of the tenacious grip of the embrace in which Greeny's wife writhed and could not jump out of the trap of her former passion. "Man, you won't believe it," the stranger began to lament with a shortness of breath and fear in his voice. "I'm a yogi of the highest category and your wife is hopelessly ill. It's just that she didn't tell you so as not to upset you." "Yeah." Cherry nodded. "And I, through deep meditations, which are known only to me, came to cure her," he continued with confidence in the voice of a yogi of the highest category, seeing that Grinya was standing without any body movements. "Yeah," the flower continued, also gaining confidence in her voice. But Gregory did not hear their excuses. Looking for a long time and intently at the people stuck together in passion, Greeny began an attack, accompanied by the curvature of surrounding objects. His wife and lover turned into shapeless objects. Items began to break. The lover smoothly turned into images of the heroes of Mark Chagall's painting Study for Adam and Eve Apollinara. Further, this pathos began to turn into the inhabitants of the country from his childhood dreams. Gregory noticed that the man was no longer a man, but that gingerbread insolent, vile and impudent gingerbread man, who, grinning with a crooked haughty smile and in a squeaking voice, said, "Here I am. Didn't wait. Long time no see." "Aha," said the second gingerbread man, who was hugged by the impudent leader. And then Gregory woke up after a long hibernation desire for revenge. He abruptly, with violent force, pounced on this appetizingly arrogant flat man, who was actually a locksmith of the fourth category, Otto Pishev Ivan Ivanovich, who had been in various alterations associated with love affairs to the left, but in the form of a gingerbread man for the first time. Grinya grabbed the locksmith by the throat with tenacious hands, without hesitation and without asking permission, like a decent and well-mannered person. "Can I taste it?" Made the first bite in the area of Vanya's nose. Ivan in his life more than once came across two angry husbands. They beat him with fists and feet, beat off his scrotum, threatened to put various objects in his ass, but never to eat. Vanya Dika screamed. But this did not stop our taster, who then bit off his ear, and without chewing, swallowed a savory lump of human flesh. At that moment, all the hatred of Grigory Maritovich Bobroikin for the population of gingerbread men spilled out of the inside. A tenacious grip immobilized Vanya. Grinnin's hands grabbed the throat of an unpretentious lover. The whole face of the cannibal was stained with blood. But Gregory thought that jam and raspberry jam flowed down his face. The imaginary ogre, in a fit of early supper, shouted, "What a treat!" "Yeah." With fear and horror in her voice, only the sweetheart could say, all spattered with the blood of her lover. She realized in fright that she would be the dessert after this dish. After several unsuccessful attempts to escape from the arms of a distraught husband, Ivan drooped and could only croak, "You just don't eat my dick. How am I going to go to the women?" Grinya woke up in the police department of the Kurchatov Ministry of Internal Affairs for the city of Chelyabinsk. He vaguely remembered what had happened. Later, Grigory rattled this story, like our father, during interrogations by the police, interrogators, judges, jurors, who eventually came to the conclusion that he should be placed for treatment in the Regional Clinical Specialized Psychoneurological Hospital No. 1. Gus of the city of Chelyabinsk on the street, Kuznetsova, 2A. And after that the hero of my story never met gingerbread men again in his life.